Hello, I'm Llewellyn King with MECFS Alert, and I'm joined today by my co-host and co-founder of this series of programs, Deborah Waroff. And I might also say that sadly, Deborah has suffered from this disease for, I believe, 23 years.
Yes, quite good. Yeah, good math.
Absolutely. And what have you been doing about it yourself? It's been a long struggle. I know in 2003 and 2004 you were gravely ill, and you once said to me very poignantly and sadly that you were so badly off that you thought of your couch as your coffin.
Yes.
You're a bit better now. You're standing up, moving them around a bit, and been taking treatments. What is working for you?
Well, I think I might have mentioned that for a long time I did have a lot of success with frequent ozone infusions, which are quite burdensome and quite frowned upon in America, but they're very much used behind the Iron Curtain and in Cuba. And that, I think, cut out a lot of pathogens. That's what it's used for, things like anti-tuberculosis that's become resistant. They have quite a lot of tuberculosis in Russia, for example, especially in the prison system. Anyway, so that was quite successful. Unfortunately, I went into hospital, had 2 back surgeries, was horribly treated in terms of aftercare, completely collapsed. And then when we began this show, I was just starting to see Dr. Enlander. In the end, Dr. Enlander and I decided
this is Dr. Derek Enlander.
Dr. Derek Enlander.
In New York City.
Our very own, one of the original and most stalwart CFS doctors. I had been sent to him by Susan Levine, Dr. Susan Levine, who actually is on this committee that I'm down here in Washington to be on, well, to speak to as a public commentator, but Dr. Levine is on that committee now, and both she and Dr. Enlander have been stalwarts standing behind the MECFS community in New York.
Dr. Enlander is known for prescribing Ampligen, the somewhat difficult to get and somewhat controversial Ampligen, which may or may not be approved early next year by the Food and Drug Administration for general use. But you're not on Ampligen. Is there a reason for that?
Yes. One major reason was my peripatetic habits. In that I do travel. I usually go visit family and friends in the West in July. I go visit my sort of adoptive family in France in August. I go visit close friends in England in the winter. So I wasn't very suited for something like Ampligen, where you have to come in, sit still for several hours twice a week with your arm attached to an IV, which is how Ampligen is administered. So he also is doing a test with something called GC-MAF. That stands for, the MAF part, MAF, stands for macrophage activating factor. And this is something that makes the macrophages, which are these largest cells in your immune system, it makes them more strong. And it's been around for a while. It's been used in tests on AIDS and in cancer, but for various reasons hasn't much been adopted. It did improve my situation. By the time the hospital got through mistreating me, I was down to a score of 2 on NK cell cytotoxicity, which means almost no NK cells in my immune defense mechanisms, which is very, very bad. And the GC-MAF, over the course of a year, got me up to 21, which is nothing to shout about, but it does qualify as normal. Probably a normal 85-year-old, but supposedly normal. And since then, I've slid back to 16, which is just on normal.
So you're continuing with that treatment? You're not tempted to give up your peripatetic ways and take Ampligen?
I travel. I have a little freezer bag left over from when I had a boat, a little cooler bag into which I could put my frozen injections of GC-MAF factor, along with certain other things. And also now, because of my fallback, he's put me on this substance called Nexavir, which used to be known as Kudapressin, which comes from pigs' livers. But it is kosher. The rabbis have ruled that it is kosher because it's for saving your life. Anyway, so I'm taking that, and that's just begun, so I have nothing to report.
But on the whole, the thing that strikes me as a lay person, somebody who's neither sick with this disease nor has any medical background whatsoever, I'm a journalist, is that somehow these individual physicians, the sainted Dan Peterson in Klein Village, David Bell in upstate New York, Enlander in New York City, Andreas Kogelnick in Mountain View, California, are all trying things. Yet I go to this committee meeting where you were testifying today, and I hear from the committee wringing of hands, there's no money to do this. There's not one person have I heard from the government side say, we're going to try this, we think this will work. There's a lack of sort of passion. There's a sort of kind of, oh my God, there's no money, and now NIH and CDC are in collapse because they fear, it hasn't happened yet, they fear budget cutting that may come next year. Isn't that rather appalling? It appalls me.
It is, and you're right. The whole scientific community is absolutely terrified. When Dr. Lipkin was reporting on his studies of XMRV.
Let's just explain for our viewers around the world.
Dr. Lipkin was charged by the NIH of doing a definitive study as to whether the retrovirus XMRV, which Judy Mikovits had discovered at the Whittemore-Peterson Institute, mouse retrovirus, whether it was in MECFS or was not. This was a major, major study. 6 of these legendary doctors recruiting from their patients cohorts and proper controls and all of that sort of thing. And, you know, $1.5 million and vast amounts of blood samples. And he was reporting on it. And the answer was that no, XMRV is not the factor. And Judy herself redid her experiments with these cohorts, so it's definitive. That's Dr. Lipkin.
Yeah, but we've sort of got off with why the government as a whole, why the NIH, the National Institutes of Health, the Center for Disease Control in Atlanta, why there's no sort of
get up and
joy
go
about this. We're going to get this. We're on the way. We're on the march. I didn't hear anybody on the march. I heard everybody, you know, sort of camping for poverty.
Well, I think the myth about the CDC, that it's got these wonderful epidemiologists who conquer the world and find Ebola virus, is true, but it's confined to 1 or 2 people once in a while. On balance, you've got a huge bureaucracy, and there are very good people at CDC, but we were very unfortunate in the leadership of the CFS department, particularly the late Dr. Reeves, and even worse, the people before him who stole all the money.
Deborah, behind us is the Congress of the United States.
Yes.
Above us in the hearing room, I heard people essentially to this committee petitioning their government with eloquence, with hurt, expressing the pain they had suffered, the contagions in their family, the confiscation of their lives by disease. But I didn't hear the government hearing the petition. The committee sat there silent, incredible, worrying largely whether people had escorts to go to the cafeteria, which seemed to me something different. There's something wrong here. There is the Congress. It should be hearing this. The people upstairs are paid to hear it, and they didn't hear it. I think that's atrocious, and it should be addressed.
I think we're getting into the huge question of what has made government dysfunctional. Now, in this little microcosm that I look at of NIH and CDC, what I see is that, for one thing, Osama bin Laden really did get even with us in imposing this huge superstructure of security and fear on everything, and that's become a factor every place you go, including here. There is nothing left that is casual or spur of the moment because everything has to be securitized. Beyond that, these are huge, huge institutions, and they are structured, And the people at the top have too many people who would clamor for them if they weren't protected.
Well, I'm very proud of the patients. I'm very proud of the sufferers who have spoken out with beauty, with unbelievable, exquisite pleading. And I'm appalled by the deaf ears that seem to be present.
The government structure is that someone at the top is not going to talk to anyone, so they have a committee, and then they have a committee, and then the committee talks to the people and reports on this.
I've been covering this for 3 years, and they make recommendations to the secretary. 0 happens.
They are not responded to. The secretary ignores them. Now, if you really want to get Kathleen Sebelius's attention, what you have to do is be a Kennedy or a Shriver. That works really well. I was tuning into one of my favorite stations, the book station on C-SPAN 2 one weekend. There's a bee following me around, and I saw a book party for Maria Shriver's brother had a new book coming out, I think about his father, the great Sergeant Shriver, who started the Peace Corps. And this was very worthy, and it was a lovely party. The book TV had filmed it, and there was Kathleen Sebelius at this party, being utterly charming, talking to this young Shriver Kennedy person, and perfectly willing. Now, if we could get young Shriver Kennedy Shriver to put our issues forth, perhaps we'd get someplace.
Alas, Deborah,
but Ms. Sebelius is not interested in talking to you or to me.
Unfortunately, we live in a celebrity culture, and we need our own celebrity. Thank you so much, Deborah, and good luck with your travels and with your therapies.
Do rent me a celebrity by the time I come back. Thank you.
I have my cameraman's moving to Los Angeles. He may be able to nail one for us.
Thank you.
If you would like to sponsor MECFS Alert, please contact us at mecfsalert@gmail.com. Help us to help you.